For Missouri voters, Tuesday is primary election day in the 1st Congressional District. Democrats will be voting on a rematch between incumbent Lacy Clay and challenger Cori Bush. Clay is running on his 20-year track record. Bush is running on a promise of progress. News 4's Samantha Jones spoke to both candidates.
Lacy Clay and Cori Bush bounded to represent St. Louis in Congress in 2018.
Send Trump a message. Send Lacy Clay back to Congress.
Now both are back on the 2020 ballot.
It's time for a change, for new leadership that works for you.
Bush is looking again to unseat Clay, who's held office for 2 decades.
This district has over 700,000 people. None of us, there is no one else that has any other ideas.
She says it's time for someone who understands the issues St. Louisans face to represent in Washington.
I've lived unhoused with 2 babies. I've worked low wage, been uninsured.
In the shadow of civil rights protests, both candidates agree ending systemic racism in America is a multi-pronged approach, each facet centered around attacking poverty and providing opportunity.
When I talk about canceling student debt, and making colleges, state colleges free, making state trade schools free, that's because it takes the burden off of us from having to pay that or saying I can't go to college because I can't afford it.
We have to be able to graduate young people to put them on a career path. They have to graduate from the 12th grade with a skill set that makes them marketable.
On the topic of police brutality and black people being killed or hurt at the hands of officers, Clay and Bush say it's about better training and moving money elsewhere.
It's not saying that the police won't be funded. It's saying that we don't need money for rubber bullets and tear gas. We don't need money for MRAPs. We don't need money for those things that, a stack of SWAT gear sitting in a corner somewhere in a warehouse.
Clay adds the need for legislation like the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, which he helped write and pass out of the House.
In that legislation, we eliminate no-knock warrants like what killed Breonna Taylor. We outlaw chokehold. We change the model of training of police officers, teach them how to de-escalate interactions with the African American community.
That bill is currently sitting in the Senate. In his 20 years as St. Louis's Congressman, Lacy Clay touts results like removal of radioactive waste from the Westlake landfill in North County.
Because of the role that I have played in this community in cleaning up toxic waste sites,
St. Louis crime is up 35% this year from last in the city. Bush says we should be empowering crime-ridden communities with resources from health care to education.
This country has moved billions of dollars out of the federal education system and put it into the private prison industry. That's one thing that I want to go. Let's defund that. Let's defund the private prison industry. I don't believe that the dollars from our education system should be moved into that. We're already over-incarcerating and under-educating.
Clay agrees funding community services is important and adds there should be funding for witness protection programs and tougher gun laws to his list of crime-tamping tactics.
That's why I introduced legislation at the federal level to allow local governments to be able to pass their own firearms ordinances.
Voters will decide which Democrat's name will be on the November ballot this Tuesday, August 4th. Samantha Jones, News 4.